We're only hours away now from the first SuperCoach lockout of 2025. This is the Phantom speaking. Welcome to the promised final edition of the Rookie Bible. We all know the SuperCoach rookies are the key to any good team, and I've got the rookie expert, my friend in SuperCoach rookies, Dan Batten, over there from Melbourne to join me. Dan, welcome. It's an exciting week.
I'm actually a bit shocked still because it's the first time I've ever seen you in person. So, good to be with you, Grimey.
Oh, he's gone the Jack Grimes. Yes, if you haven't already, that reference will ring a bit more true if you have listened to the latest episode of the Phantom's Lair podcast, Code Sports YouTube channel, and wherever you get your podcast. Big week of shows coming up as well. Thursday night, live team show with our Haydn. I'll be there too. Full panic mode, last minute questions. Join us then, of course, breaking even with our Haydn before that on Wednesday. Big week, big stories, big content, big decisions to make in rookie land. Dan, we're not going to take too long here. If you're just joining SuperCoach for the first time, late to SuperCoach, there is still time. But rookies are the key to any good team, Dan. We've had a few debutants. We saw a few play in opening round. Let's start in defence. What's your team looking like? Who are we going with back there in defence? Do we have some more options than we did maybe 2 weeks ago?
It depends, really, because you would have penciled in Bo Allen at that stage from the Eagles. He looked a sure thing until he scored -12 in that practice game. But we had a couple that we weren't absolutely 100% on until opening round, and Ben Paton, as I've said in the last one, Al's nephew, who punched out a 67, who's a defender forward, 133K. I saw your rookie ranks Phantom, saw him at number 1. I'd agree with that personally. Yep. Just with that 67 in his 3-round rolling average. You got James Leake as...
James Leake. Before we go to James Leake, Patten on your field, and opening round scores didn't count towards your team totals in SuperCoach, but obviously they count to the price adjustment in SuperCoach after 3 games. So Ben Patten, a few other names that we will mention, are one step closer to that price increase is what we want from our rookies. We want them to balloon in value. So picking Ben Patten, that score just sort of adds to his value as a rookie.
Yeah, exactly right. And they go up in price after 3 games, 3 games in a row. That's when their first price rise is. So we can get one price rise potentially a bit earlier in that Ben Patten has already played that game in opening rounds. So he looks a lock for our defence. I only have one rookie on field in defence. I don't know how yours is set up, Phantom, but I've got Ben Patten at the moment as my only rookie defender on field. I've got him batting pretty deep with some mid prices at the moment, depending on teams. But James Leake is the other one who played for the Giants, scored a 60. So he's another one who has a score banked. We already got a bit of a cheat, a bit of a look at him over the weekend. But he only had 54% time on ground. So just a bit of a watch for teams. Make sure you look at the teams. If he's locked in there in the 22, or even on the 18, that's probably when you go with him, because Tom Green could potentially be included as well and replace him. Yep. The other one there in defence, Zach Reid, looks to be a certain starter for round 1, and we all picked him this time last year, and he's at about the same price again. So he is an in-step defender and should get consistent games, maybe not scoring, but consistent games at least.
Yep. Now I'm fielding 2 at the moment on the field there. Leake is, I'm a bit worried now. We've spoken about it throughout the week. It could be that the Giants is easing him through. Maybe they were going to sub him off, but then Kieran Briggs got hurt, so they had to readjust and maybe just easing him through there on a hot day on debut. I'm hoping that's more, but Tom Green back, as you mentioned, we'll wait and see there. Hopefully too, but it is pretty shallow with sort of on-field options. So we might look to play more rookies on your field in the midfield, which we'll get to in a second. Couple more bench options though. We know Luke Traynor from the Tigers confirmed to make his debut, 113K. That's what we want for the bench, Dan. He's going to be there on Thursday night. Scored well in limited game time in the Amy series against the Pies, and the Tigers will give them a good run. Jackson Pryor as well, the former Lion, confirmed to make his club debut for the Bombers. A bit more expensive, maybe one we could play on your field. But do you have either of those guys? You're a Tigers man. Luke Train, have you got him on your bench? Obviously last year's draft, which is your specialty. Have you got him in?
At the moment, I don't, but I'm seriously considering bringing him in. He's an interceptor, uses the ball really well, scored well in very limited game time, as you said, in that practice game. So if a guy like Leak doesn't get up, or you're a bit unsure about his job security, you might be thinking, he might be sub or something like that in the coming weeks, then I wouldn't mind. I think it's a decent shout to pick Trainer instead. Just another one who's a bit more higher price, Luke Cleary, who we all ranted and raved about Sam Davidson, who we'll get to a bit later from the Amy series. Luke Cleary actually outscored him in that game with 89 points, had 10 intercepts. He's 171,000, and he's another one to keep an eye on. Bailey Dale expected to come back into that Bulldog side, but if he doesn't, then I think Cleary is definitely an option as well.
I like it. Before we move on to the midfield, do you think there's any chance Ross pulls a surprise and gives us back Toby Travalia at the Saints? He was the number one rookie option, I think, when we last spoke, or just about. Definitely when SuperCoach opened last year. Think there's any chance Ross picks him on Thursday night?
I think there's a decent chance, but whether that's in the 22 or the 23, I think that remains to be seen, because he played limited game time in the two games he did play. He did show some decent signs in the two practice games he played, but he was only coming on after half time. So maybe they were gearing him up to be the sub.
Maybe.
And you probably couldn't pick him. You couldn't pick him at that price with other options around, like a Jackson Pryor if he is a sub. So just make sure you're on top of it and watching to see that final Saints team.
Yep, live show Thursday night. Join us there. We'll have all of it. We'll unpack what to do from there, the big team sheet announcement. But we do, and we're going to have to, we think, spend money in the midfield. We've spoken about it before on the last Rookie Bible here on the AFL SuperCoach podcast channel, but the top-end rookie price bracket in 2025 in the midfield is stacked. It's all about who we're going to choose. How many you got on your field, Dan, and who are we going with?
I think at one stage I went a bit bananas and had 5, but I've settled for 4 at the moment. The guys I do have on my field are Finn O'Sullivan from North Melbourne, Elijah Sardis from Essendon, Levi Ashcroft from the Lions, and Mitch Nevitt from the Cats, all going to have pretty solid roles and job security, I would have thought, in the early rounds. And I've slotted another more expensive midfielder on the bench, your man, Ed Allen. I liked what I saw from him against the Giants the other day, and he's another one who has that score banked. So he's set for a bit of an earlier price rise than some of these other rookies.
Yeah, well, you must be looking at my team, because I've got the exact same guys on the field there. Again, we weren't really talking about Finn O'Sullivan in SuperCoach, given we're a bit unsure about his role, maybe how much ball he can win, but dispelled those questions, I think, in the Amy series. I've got those 4 on field too. Can't quite afford Ed Allen on the bench, so I've gone a little bit cheaper at the moment. Elijah Hewitt from the Eagles, who now basically has been declared available for the Eagles season opener in round 1, despite battling general soreness after intra-club. An absolute bench lock, 122k mid-forward. Great DPP action there. I've got Murphy Reid as well from the Dock, because I know you like Murphy Reid from the draft.
Like it.
Reporter Eliza Riley over there in Perth for Code Sports wrote something last week, and she does know what's happening over there at Freo, and posed the question, has he already gone past Neil Erasmus and Matthew Johnson over there to get a spot? So 131k, a little bit more affordable on the bench there, because I don't have the cash left. I've gone a bit deeper with some premiums, which we'll get to in the next couple of days here on Code Sports YouTube, my team. I've gone a bit cheaper on the bench. What have you done after Ed Allen? That's a lot of money there used up on your mid-price rookies. Have you gone a bit cheaper after that?
I have, yeah. I've got Elijah Hewitt. As you mentioned before, I was had sort of played my team, just seeing how it looked with him out. Had guys like a Max Hall, even an Isaac Kako at one stage at 150k on my mid bench, because there are a decent amount of a lot of forward spots that we have full. So, and maybe not as many mid bench spots. So had a Kako there originally, but after Hewitt, I have Hugh Boxall, who I really like from the Saints. Had some big junior numbers in the waffle, contested midfielder, sort of a bit of a Hugo Garcia 2.0, very high points per minute, very well built for his age, and fended off Patrick Cripps in the practice game as well, which we really liked, and then scored an 80 in the next game. It's just whether he has that role with the cavalry arriving, with the likes of Jack Sinclair and that coming back in. But for the moment, I do like him as a pick on my midfield bench.
Two other higher price rookie options that are being floated. One particular coming with a bullet this week. Sam Law, the number 1 draft pick, also been confirmed to make his debut on Thursday night against the Blues. He's over 200k. Nathan O'Driscoll from the Dockers in the 190k price bracket too. They're definitely in the mix there. Sam Lawler, have you been tempted to go with him now that he's definitely playing? He's recovered from that preseason injury. What do you think? Could you fit him in?
I've been tempted but I've had to check my biases a little bit. He's was going to school down Geelong Way where I was working, so I know his story quite well, and he's a great kid, and he's overcome quite a lot of injuries, and he's done it again in the preseason. Had a broken jaw only a couple of weeks ago, and he's fit and firing and back, and that's what he did all last year, overcoming injury issues. But I'm tempted more so to leave him out, I think, just because he's hardly had a pre-season across his whole junior career. Richmond's he's gonna be thrown to the wolves in that Richmond midfield, and I suspect he's going to play a decent bit of time forward as well as he did last year in his draft year. So I wouldn't be. He is quite expensive as well. With the other options we have, I think we can afford to sit back and wait. And if he does punch out 280s, then we jump on. Nod's the interesting one for me. I probably had him in instead of Ed Allen, but Ed Allen having that 70 in his scoring already does make me very tempted. But at the same time, I think there's a bit of a watch with Ed Allen, with Jordan Ngowi coming back into that side as well. Does Ed Allen go out and be the sub eventually? But I think with that 70 already in his loop, he's got at least one more game, and Ngowi's out for this week, already ruled out. So there should be at least one more game to prove himself, and he can do it again, which he did in the final round of last year as well. I think he can be a solid money maker for us.
And I think, what Collingwood dished up on Sunday, the oldest list or the oldest team in club history, surely they can't be going and dropping a 21 or 22-year-old Ed Allen from that side. The midfield needs a fresh look. So I'm hoping Craig McRae has no choice but to persist with him. Might have to squeeze him in if there's some surprises at team selection. He's the next in for me. Talking about team selection before we move on to the rucks and the forward lines to finish off the final Rookie Bible for 2025. Sid Draper, you speak about junior numbers. I know you're not a big fan of the under-18 competition over here in the Sandville, but Sid Draper dominated at senior level over here in the Sandville too. The big watch on him over here is, one, will he play? And then one, will he be in the 22? We have to make a decision. We know it can have an impact. We saw that in the Amy series coming on in the second half. If he's named, and if Matthew Nicks comes out, he doesn't often do it. He's not Ken Hinkley. Ken Hinkley, we know, good for super coaches and tells us whether the kid's going to play. But if the Crows did come out and say Sid Draper won't be sub, will start on the field, would that change your thinking?
I think it probably would, considering he has the sample numbers behind him, average over 100 in that competition last year, and he's ready, and he's exactly what Adelaide needs for his midfield. I think before the draft last year, I did a bit of a top 5 rookies to watch, and he was number 1, or he was very high up on the list anyway. So, yeah, I would be very tempted. It's just that probably that final spot of an Ed Allen, does he overtake him? And just a couple more midfield rookies to watch out for the teams. Obviously, Lucas Camporelli already confirmed. If Hugh Boxall's out, I reckon Lucas Camporelli is not a bad shout. Wins a lot of the footy, doesn't use it amazingly, but he won 20 disposals in the practice game, had 500 metres gained. He's a metres gained player, so there's another one to to definitely watch out for and potentially include maybe as your M9.
Yep, here's another one I'm considering there. Obviously, the bottom price there is what we want. We'd ideally like a 99K player to pop up. They haven't just yet, but we might see them. We spoke about the SPP signings on the last Rookie Bible. Hopefully, we see those guys down the track. In the ruck, speaking of SPP signings, Harry Boyd, we did think potentially could you play him on the field even? Could you play him at flex? It looks like and it sounds like Rowan Marshall will play against the Crows on Sunday. Does that mean we're not picking Harry Boyd at all, or are we still just locking him on the bench? R3, he could play alongside Marshall, or he might feature at some point, so he's probably there as your loophole anyway. But Harry Boyd's still in for you at R3?
I think so, but it's a watch on teams. If he's not named for us, I'd be tempted to potentially play a Liam Reedy if he is named for the Dockers. He's probably going to be R1. He only scored the 15 points in that second practice game up against Max Gorn, but he's got Sam de Koning in round 1 and could have a bit of an easier run there as a ruckman. So if you're willing to, if you've got that 30K spare and Harry Boyd isn't named, because Rowan Marshall is set to play in round 1, and if Boyd isn't named, then I'd be tempted to maybe go a Liam Reedy instead. But if he is named, I think you just slot him on your bench, not on your field. He scored 40 as the number 1 ruckman in the preseason, so I don't think we can be trusting him there. And he's not playing against a Stanford ruckman there where he was averaging about 350. So but I think you declared him block of the century at one stage.
I said
in preseason, maybe
have it to that. If he was in, another shot at the sample there. You got to watch yourself when you step over here. If you come back to gather around again, when you step in here, the sample will be looking for you. Anyone else, before we move on to 4, is there anyone else there that could surprise in the ruck? Any potential money trains, any potential R3s, if for some reason Liam Reedy doesn't play either?
Look, if you're really, really desperate and if Kieran Briggs' injury is worse than first thought, Lockie Keefe, I just realised before, a couple of days ago, is 180K and he is the number 1 ruckman, but I don't think he'll be the number 1 ruckman. I don't think he'll be the number 1 ruckman for long, to be honest, after Darcy Cameron scored about 350 against him in 3 quarters. So, yeah, I would probably be just looking at Harry Boyd or a Liam Reedy and not paying up for a Lockie Keefe, who might be out in a couple of weeks anyway. So, yeah, it's probably one of those two.
Yep, Gorn might eat Lockie Keefe this weekend as well. Forward line. There's a few interesting names now. We know we're going a bit deeper in the midfield. There's a lot of mid-price value, a lot of bargains we sort of almost must-haves. So we're probably limited for room on field for rookies in the forward line. It probably suits, it makes sense with what's available as well, really. What does your forward line look like? How many rookies on there? And are you fielding? Who are you fielding? Sam Davidson we've spoken about. He's in your field.
Yeah, he's on my field at the moment. I think we can trust him. He's not going to be scoring 80s, 90s like he was in the preseason every week, but I think we can trust him for some pretty steady sort of 50, 60 scores, especially playing as that sort of wing role. Yep. I think Anthony Scott, you lock him, maybe not lock him in nil, but Anthony Scott, when he sort of bursts onto the scene, I think Sam Davidson's probably a better version of that. He can hit the scoreboard, and I think he'll be that link man from half forward to half back. So, yeah, I think he's a pretty reliable on-field option. If you like a bit of a risk, then maybe it's on fielding Isaac Kako, depending on the opponent. Obviously, we saw he scored about 50, 60 points in a quarter against the Cats. He can be that match winner. So he's one to consider if you like a bit of a punt, especially in these best 18 rounds. You can afford to maybe go, I'm going to go with a Kako, see if he punches out a 90. If he scores a 30, it's okay. He's not in my best 18 anyway. So, and the other one on my bench at the moment is Connor Stone, like James Leake, like Ben Patten as well. He has that extra score in his 3-round average already. He scored the 64 points, very similar to his community series score as well. So he's playing off halfback. He's probably not going to be, a rebounding defender, but he's getting intercepts It's a pretty decent role for a rookie, and at 120k, he's hard to go past.
Yep, 6 intercepts for him against the Magpies could as well get DPP by round 6 in SuperCoach as well, which would help. We know Ben Patten pick him in defence. He's a defender forward too. So Connor Stone on my bench to the perfect F8 for me at the moment. With that score in there, potential DPP status coming. The next one, couldn't find room for him. I've only got Sam Davidson on the field in the forward line. But number 4 in my rookie rankings, Tom Lynch. Not on the Richmond injury list. Looks set to play against the Blues on Thursday night. Yes, the Tigers going to have their work cut out. We know when this guy played, and yes, they were a different team a couple of years ago, but last time he played a full season, averaged 94 SuperCoach points per game, 183k. What do you think? Would you consider playing him? Should more SuperCoaches out there consider playing him on the field?
Well, he's in 19% of teams and probably is a bit low for how good he is. But I think if he had a full preseason, I think most of us will be picking him. And also it's just how many you can fit in or whether you try and fit him into a flex. But I think a lot of people have like a Matt Flynn or potentially another rookie from the midfield in their flex. But at the moment, it was sort of the toss-up for me was Riley Sanders or Tom Lynch. And I think probably Riley Sanders' potential was, particularly in that first sort of 5 weeks with Marcus Bontempelli out, he could potentially be scoring 85s, 90s and become, potentially a keeper. Whereas Tom Lynch, he's probably more likely, he's maybe 85 max. And that's probably pretty optimistic considering Richmond's ball movement and who they have up there, who they have actually getting the ball for them. So, it will probably be some pretty poor games from him from a scoring perspective, and then he might come out and score the odd 90. But, at the moment, I just can't fit him in. And I guess you could even toss it up like, if you've got the extra 30k, do you go a Tom Lynch instead of a Kako? Kako probably is going to win more of the footy and he is more high impacts, but, I don't think Kako is going to be kicking 4 goals every week as he did in the Community Series, whereas Tom Lynch is a proven goal kicker, with for over a decade. So, it's definitely one to consider, but at the moment I'm probably favouring Kako.
If they both play the first 6 weeks, just say, that's probably the thing with Tom Lynch, need to stay on the park. He averages Kako, doesn't he? Clearly.
He probably does, yeah. I mean, but I guess it just depends about their spike scores and all that sort of stuff. But, Tom Lynch, if he gets a couple of bad games in a row, if he gets towed up by Wiedering in round 1, scores 20, then, it doesn't look great. Whereas probably Kako's probably got a little bit more consistency about him. So the other one there is Sam Palpepper, obviously over there in Port Adelaide. Would you weigh him up as a potential option around that same price as Lynch?
It doesn't have probably the ceiling that we've got from Tom Lynch. He's not going to come out and pop off with a 130 or 120, I wouldn't have thought. But, he definitely got a role in that side. He's going to have an impact. We know they're missing Zach Butters, obviously, and that's a forward rotation as well. So Sam Palpepper will be there, will get a bit of the footy, and he's pretty safe. When we're talking job security, we talk about some of these rookies that have good job security. I declared Finn O'Sullivan potentially out of all the draftees, one of the highest job securities in SuperCoach 2025. Sam Palpepper would have to be very, very close, given what he's done before, given his importance to that side, given how highly Ken values him. So I don't mind it either. Just doesn't have that ceiling. And again, with all the value options that we're picking, just don't have room for him. And I don't think you want to put him on your bench. I've got him out for now, but again, I don't mind him as a point of difference option if you're playing an extra sub 200k player on the field. Another one over here, Dan Curtin, 158k. Jordan Dawson, the skipper, I think during the week here in Adelaide, even referenced him, talked him up and said he's going to be my midfield replacement in the long term. Ideally, if we knew he was going to play in the midfield this year, we'd be picking him. 5 names, Simeon Kingsley, Thomas Wilson from the Lair. A reporter here on the ground keeps telling us that he's looked pretty good as a forward. Lead up forward, plays a bit higher, getting involved a lot. Problem is, couldn't get involved against the Lions, so he might struggle at times. I still don't mind him, and he's probably cheap enough to play on the bench if you wanted an option. I think the Crows are going to give him a chance this year. Another one I want to ask about, Corey Warner from the Swans, does have a score in his system against the Hawks on Friday night. Any consideration?
Just on Warner first off, I probably would have liked to see a little bit more from him. He's playing an outside midfield role. It looks like he has the role left by Errol Goulden,
Yep.
Obviously with his injury. But yeah, I mean, it was only 10 or 12 touches for him. He is a bit more high impact, but he was a sub in. He started as a sub in 4 of his 6 games last year at AFL level, and the other one he was subbed out. So. Yep. I think we need to see a bit more before we put trust in Corey Warner. But yeah, I mean, Dan Curtin again, like I did love him in his draft year, and I think he will be a really quality player, but it's just probably not for SuperCoach just yet in that forward role. But, look out when he does become a midfielder. Another one around that price as well. There's a few options around. Is Joe Berry at 140K for Port Adelaide. Small forward sort of.
I love him.
Was that you love him?
They love him down there.
They love him, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think his job security is great as well. He's a similar case to Kako, where he's going to be playing more small forward, but Kako probably more high impact, and Joe Berry's maybe more your link man who can cover the ground, and but yeah, may have to be a bit more unrewarded as a small forward there. Max Hall is another one as well, St Kilda, who looks like he might play as well. Mature age, just scored a 200 in the VFL last year, but again, he's probably playing that pressure forward role, and you're probably picking Connor Stone over all of these guys just purely because he's a defender.
Yep. No, I agree with all of that. Just on the Swans side, we didn't touch on, but Angus Sheldrick was subbed out.
Oh, of course, yeah.
On Friday night, so we've almost crossed him out of that midfield conversation. We know he's been subbed a lot of times in his career, so he's dropped down the pecking order given those options we spoke about. Plenty of names there. You came for the SuperCoach rookie advice. You also got Dan Batten declaring Riley Sanders a potential keeper. Got more than you bargained for there, but that is a quick wrap of the SuperCoach rookies to consider. We know they are the foundation of any good side. Get in there, pick your rookies now, build around it. There's, as we mentioned, a lot in the midfield, a lot of options that you probably can field more so than in the fence in the forward line. So plan around that, and Dan, have a backup plan because things could go wrong at team selection on Thursday night.
That's right. Yeah, make sure you have a few plans in place from a rookie perspective. Just you keep an open mind with a few of those guys we mentioned, and hopefully a few of them pop off just like your fine self, Jack Grimes.
Then you can pivot on Thursday night. But of course, join us for the live show. We'll have all the teams, all the rookies. We can adjust on the fly. Join us there for the AFL SuperCoach podcast live team show. I'll be there with our Peyton. Who knows, we might even give our man Dan Batten a call if he's not already at the MCG. But Dan, thank you again, of course, doing some big work. Our Rookie Bible is online now, codesports.com.au, and in the news tab of the SuperCoach app. Fully updated, verdicts, stats, intel, everything you need to know about the SuperCoach rookies. If you didn't believe us listening here, go on there, make up your own mind now and have a look. Good luck, Dan. We'll see you on the other side after lockout.
It's been a pleasure. It should be a good couple of days.